Hey shifters, it's Fran Holinda.
And it's Lisa A.
And it's time to make shift happen, the After Show. And today we have a very special guest with us in our studio. I love having people in our studio.
I know, this is fun.
This is really nice.
And he's cute too.
He is kind of cute. We have in our studio today Mario Arace, founder of BaBam Inspiration, partner of East Main Co., and host of the upcoming podcast, The BaBam Show.
Yes. Welcome, Mario.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome to our studio.
It's absolutely wonderful. Thank you for having me. It's wonderful to be here.
Well, we're excited. So this is one of those after shows, I think, that we really want to let our listeners know it's going to be a little bit different than some of the ones we've done, because we want to stay on a topic. We're not usually topical. We're usually all over the place.
All over the
People
world.
are like, girls, calm down. You're all over the place. But with you have an interesting background, and we'd like you to share that with our listeners so then we can get started.
Yeah, I mean, the genesis of where this has taken me, I was in the corporate world for 25 years. I'm actually still in the corporate world, but the first 25 years, very passionate, absolutely loved it. Then automation and technology came along, and it sucked the passion right out of me. I mean, to the point where I became a shell. I couldn't even find my identity. And it was a very dark 4 years, extremely dark. And what pulled me out of it was, after those 4 years, I referred to myself as a victim. And that was like a lightning bolt struck me. I never want to be known as a victim. I've overcome so many obstacles in my life. I've overcome so much heartbreak, and I've always battled through. And once I heard myself refer to myself as a victim, I knew I had to make a change, a big change. My mindset had to flip back. I had to find something to become more passionate about. And so I started studying automation and technology. And through that process, I realized that technology was moving a lot faster. And then I started getting concerned about people. I know that there are a lot of people out there who are not prepared for what's coming. And I want to help them shift their mindset, and I want to help them make the right decisions. I mean, your life is the product of your choices. I think people are making pretty bad choices. So this isn't scientific. I'm not saying everything I'm saying is right. I just want to share what worked for me.
Right. Well, what I'm hearing, and this is what we decided that our topic was going to be today, is toxicity. The environment was toxic. You were toxic. The people you were with were toxic. So today we want to talk about going from toxic to ToxEx. How do we get rid of it in our lives?
Please help us understand.
Well, think about it. I mean, people are toxic. Places, the way we think, the way we eat, everything we do has an effect on us. And so the corporate world, without question, I'm with you on that. I've been also in the corporate world for over 25 years. I've had my own business. And as I'm winding it down, I'm finding it to be very difficult, because I know what I want to do. This is what I want to do. And it's really hard to have that. You're almost there, but you're not quite there. How do you keep that balance of learning? I'm assuming BaBam is your way of rebirthing.
Yeah, I mean, everything has been BaBam for me my whole life. That's a celebratory. It's almost like a superhero. But you hit on something very good, because getting rid of toxicity starts.
It's a mouthful.
It does start with yourself, because people create their own toxicity.
Yes.
I mean, I tell people what I learned is that I was telling myself things that did not exist, that were not even true. And I was forming this toxic state, and I was going deeper and deeper and deeper down into the rabbit hole. And then I had to realize, okay, how am I going to pull myself out of this? And a lot of people, especially young people, and I hate when it bothers me when people say this, I want to find myself. Well, how about finding who you're not first?
I like that.
So you're in a bad relationship, get rid of that relationship. You have a family member that's putting you down and telling you you're never going to succeed. In a very nice way, tell that family member you love them and walk away. If you're in a 9-to-5 job you absolutely hate, make a choice to get rid of it. And by default, you are then going to find out not only who you are, but who you want to be.
That makes sense. Yeah.
I think most people don't realize it, as we sit and we talk about this, and we've all had a lot of life experience as at the three of us sitting at this table.
Right.
It's difficult to see the forest through the trees sometimes. So when you're in the middle of this environment, this toxicity, not only do you not always recognize it, but it's not as easy as it sounds to say goodbye to somebody that may be toxic, and to understand, is it them or is it the way you perceive them? Is it yourself putting your toxicity on them even, and then turning it around?
When someone is trying to make their life better, when they're taking risks and they're taking chances, the people closest to you don't think that they're always going to support you.
Right.
People don't want to see other people succeed if they don't have the same drive and passion. And that's why passion is what's so important. Now, if those people around you and you're talking about what you're looking to do and how you want to change other people's lives and how you want to change your life for the better, if they get excited about it and it becomes contagious, those are the people you want to surround yourself with. I mean, that's why I say everything is by default. You're going to find out who those people are. You're going to find out who your cheerleaders are, who your supporters are, simply by telling them. And in fact, why not just hustle in silence and let your success make the noise? They'll find out afterwards. A lot of people, they start talking about what they want to do so much to so many people that they don't take them very seriously. The most successful people in the world have accomplished things, and then all of a sudden something big happens and everybody notices what was the fruits of their efforts. Mm-hmm. So do it silently. If you really don't want to alienate yourself and you want to keep those people in your life, which I truly don't recommend if they are toxic, then do it silently.
I would have to agree with you on that. I think we've experienced
Absolutely.
this as we've tried to grow in different ways. Mm-hmm. One of the things that I have found as I have matured and found myself, I love that expression as well. We evolve.
You found out who you're not.
I found out who I really am not. Exactly. But we also, and it's interesting because in my coaching life, I would work with people and I would always say to them, you may not always know exactly what you want, but you know exactly what you don't like. Most people know what you don't like. Okay. And what you don't want to do, even if you're not 100% sure what it is exactly that you want to do. But as we evolve, things come to you. And you're first shot out on something. Let's say, we're leaving corporate America and, I think I'm going to try something. I thought I wanted to be a fitness instructor because I thought that, I think fitness is important and I wanted to help people and help them to improve their lives. But it wasn't until I tried it and I got varying degrees of support, maybe because I'm a late bloomer. So I wasn't your typical, you're going to be a trainer, kind of thing. Once I got in there, I realized, this is so not for me. Mm-hmm. And had I, it wasn't that I wasn't sharing it, but you start to feel uncomfortable because you made such a big deal, right? Telling everybody this is what I'm going to do. And maybe you did have the cheerleaders and now you're like, nah, I don't like it.
Yeah. And that you just hit on something else though. Why would you care what other people think? It's none of your business. Well, it's absolutely none of your business.
I just heard somebody say that the other day. What other people think of you is absolutely none of your business. Yeah, and you know what? It's true. Perfect.
It's true. I mean, it's not saying you're going to do something. If people will just identify, like, what makes them happy? What's their favorite hobby? A hobby can become something that if you're very passionate about it, you can be very successful in it. But it's finding out what you're passionate about. When I was in the corporate world, and I'm not putting down the corporate world. I am not. I'll put down 9-to-5 jobs. I will put that down. But I was able to be very entrepreneurial. I was able to be very passionate. And I would wake up at 4 o'clock every morning. I'd be in the city by 10 to 5. And I could not wait till the next day. But most people are living their lives for 2 days out of the week.
Let me guess. Saturday and Sunday. Yep,
absolutely. And if you hate Mondays, make a change because you're losing. You may not know it, but you're losing. And people are so comfortable being comfortable. And what I found is the more uncomfortable I am, that's when I'm in my comfort zone. Because I don't believe in a comfort zone. You have to continue to take chances. You have to continue to adapt, and you have to continue to change. Because the world, ever since the iPhone came out in 2007, think about this. It's changed the face of retail. It's changed the face of so much, the way we communicate with each other. We can FaceTime from across the globe. What are the next 10 years going to bring? Who's preparing for that? But people they'd rather just ignore it and think it's not going to happen. It's going to go away.
No, it's definitely not going to go away. That's
the comfort zone. Yeah. I mean, people are still going to their 9-to-5 jobs with their head down, miserable, coming home, eating dinner, streaming Netflix, going to bed, rinsing and repeating. That's not a life. That's existing. I want people to live, not just exist.
Okay, so let's go back though. Dial the clock back, 20 some odd years ago, even for myself. Okay,
for all of us, yeah, exactly.
Where I thought, I had a family, I had obligations. It's so nice to be able to say, but it's not as easy to put into practice. I think it takes some planning. Everybody, and honestly, I would say that I think everyone should actually experience the toxic. Because then you know what you don't want also, right? How do you know what's not for you if you don't at least dip your toe in?
Yes, and I do understand. I do understand exactly what you're saying, but again, that's a product of choice. Those are choices. Those are the choices that you make. You're where you are right now because of the choices you make.
Absolutely.
You did not have to make those choices.
Nope.
But I could say one other thing. It's not just toxic. It's understanding that to move forward and to succeed, the most successful people embrace one thing, the struggle. And nobody wants the struggle. Nobody.
Well, everybody is looking for the easy way. You know what? I'll tell you too. I think since YouTube came along, okay,
absolutely.
and you would know this because of the entertainment industry, which is something. All right, what used to have to happen? People used to have to
go buy
send demos, right? They used to have to knock on doors.
Go see the A&R
they
guy.
had to go do right. They had to kiss a little butt here and there. Now you go on YouTube if you're lucky, right? You put out your stuff. It has a good and an evil
found.
Yeah. I always think of Justin Bieber. I can't help it. He became so. What happens though now is the little people all think that's all they have to do. Yep. They don't have to struggle. They don't have to work hard. I'm just going to be discovered. I'm just going to be found.
That's another thing I've heard you at some speaking engagements talk about, the whole social media thing too, with Instagram and the lives that we perceive that people are having, when we look at this.
It's destroying people, especially I think the millennials. I mean, you look at all these posts. I mean, how many of them are fake? I mean, there's so many fake posts up there, and everybody wants to put this. I mean, if you Googled the top 1,000 Photoshop fails, you're going to see the people that are glorified. You're going to see the Kardashians,
people
the
we
Jenners,
think we want to be, right?
Who you think you want to be, but live your life being imperfect because you're constantly going to grow. And I in this social media age, I mean, it's like people put their problems on Facebook. How about facing your problems? Like, who the hell wants to scroll through a feed on your Facebook feed and see, people constantly putting up what their problems are in their life? I mean, I appreciate you being that vulnerable, but deal with your problems. Don't look for people to simply say, "Oh, I feel so bad," or
"Poor baby."
Exactly.
It's the poor baby.
They think they get more likes.
Exactly. And it's for the attention.
Right.
And by the way, I hear people all the time that I do coach on the side, and they're like, "Well, how do I get more likes? How am I going?" I say you cannot deposit likes.
No. Not at all.
I don't care how many you get. You can't deposit them. So why do you care about them?
The most important thing, and we've learned this, I've learned this, it's the most difficult thing. And I think if someone, people ask you if you had one piece of advice to give your younger self, for me, it would always just be authentic, be yourself. We all put on a costume at some point in our lives. You got to play the game to get along a little bit. But the hardest thing, I think, for anybody is to truly be who you were born and meant to be.
Exactly.
Well, you can't get away with it today. You have to be transparent and you have to be authentic because you are not going to survive.
It's too difficult to be somebody else.
Exactly.
You don't remember, right?
Well, first off, you know what the greatest part about telling the truth is?
You never have to remember it.
There you go.
It just is.
You never do.
Fact is a fact is a fact.
And
so
you know,
true.
when people ask me, I give them the same answer. I will always give them the same answer. When I see people hedge when I ask them the same exact question I asked them 3 months ago and they hedge on it, I know they lied. So it's trying to be who you're not. It's so unfulfilling and they feel it and they know it. But it becomes their way of life because they don't know how to be unique and genuine.
So Fern brought up an interesting point before.
I did?
What would you tell your younger self? I mean, now that you've experienced this, through the corporate world, trying to find this new journey that you're going on, what would you have done differently? Or what would you have told your younger self?
I probably would not have gone to college.
Mm-hmm.
I certainly would. What I do today, I mean, I would have taken. I certainly would have taken a different. I would have taken a different path, and I think I would have been on my journey a lot quicker. But it's difficult. It's a difficult question because I never want to look back on the past. I mean, I never do. I'm here today. I'm on my journey. Fran pointed out before. It's hard. It takes. It takes time or whatever it is. I've been on this journey for 7 years. I mean, it was 2012, the first time ever I didn't receive a bonus. I mean,
a knife to your heart.
but it wasn't about the money. That's what I'm trying to get across here. My passion was taken away from me. Everything I woke up every day for that I loved, I absolutely loved it. It was taken away from me. From automation and technology. And you know what? That's my responsibility. That's once I took ownership of that, that's when I was able to move forward.
Well, okay, similar. We are running parallel lives to some extent. So I've owned my physician billing service for 25 years. And technology to some extent, when they passed the laws, the HIPAA and all the healthcare reform acts, and electronic medical records became what was going to be the standard, suddenly the billing component, the back office component, began to change. And I remember, no kidding around, sitting in a parking lot talking to one of my physician practices, one of the managing partner, on a weekend, after years and years and years of working with them. And he basically said, if you guys don't get into updating the software that you're using that gives us the capability,
say goodbye.
We're done. And I thought to myself, you son of a bitch, 7 days a week for how many years I have done everything to make you as profitable as humanly possible. And just like you, if you could say there is a moment in your life where you can go back and realize my path has now changed. That was it for me. That was the beginning of the beginning.
Yeah, and you talk about your billing service. Okay, so what about Toys R Us? What about Sears? Retail's dead. It's dead because they were unable to keep up with technology. They did not foresee it. They didn't see it coming. Others did. Look at Walmart. I mean, Toys R Us outsourced to Amazon. So when it came to buying online, you think about this. I mean, if people just thought about it, they outsourced to Amazon. So that buying a toy was online, but it was also Amazon. It wasn't Toys R Us. It was Amazon. Amazon knew that they would put Toys R Us out of business, and they would be the largest seller of toys in the world.
They're coming back.
They're doing it with food. They're doing it with cosmetics. I mean, you name it. I don't care what retail business you're in. If you are not online, if you do not have a social presence, if you are not getting content out there, there's no way to survive.
Well, I just had that experience today with something that I was ordering, and a friend of mine said that takes 5 to 7 days from the company you're ordering it from. Just go to Amazon. It'll be there tomorrow on your doorstep.
I know.
So now I no longer call this company. I call Amazon.
Okay, but I'll give you an example. So I was looking for a product, and I actually went to a store that I expected the product to be at. And I was there for a half hour looking for this product that they simply, actually 2 stores that they didn't have it. I found it on Amazon in 5 seconds. So there's both sides to it, but I think that actually.
And the product wasn't there because the store they couldn't get a margin. They couldn't make a profit off of it because Amazon is able to sell it so much more efficiently.
And they just pull, but I think all of this, to be honest with you, whereas convenience is wonderful, I think it adds to a certain amount of isolation. And I think a certain amount of that is, I'm going to say, toxic, in that we've become less and less willing to put ourselves out there and to be with other people, to invest ourselves in relationships. Yes. It's just too hard, right?
You have to make an effort. I make an effort to be in a social scene all the time. I'll get people together. I'll gather people together. You can't stop a tidal wave. It's impossible. It's coming. It's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. It's either you adapt or you die. You got to make the choice. So you can't. The people who are hemming and hawing, stop the complaining. Just stop complaining. Nobody cares.
Make a plan. Do some. I used to say there's the whiners and then there's the doers. I mean, you come to a realization about something, whatever it is. Okay, I'm no longer happy. The life has been sucked out of me. I could sit at my desk for another 10 years, clock time, or I can actually do something about it. Let's talk about your podcast and BaBam Inspiration, because I think that's really going to be one of your vehicles, right, to get your message across, to help people who are in that struggle of
yes.
where do I go from here?
Is it going to be about advice on how to do this, or
It's how I did it and what I learned. I mean, look, I've talked to so many people. It's not like this stuff comes out of thin air. I mean, I've talked to so many people. I'll give you an example. I was talking to a young lady last summer, and she hated her job, absolutely hated her job. She was in a field, but she wanted to be in a different part of that field. And I said, well, make the change. She said, I can't afford to. I'd have to take a pay cut. I said, well, how badly do you want it? She goes, I want it bad. I said, prove it. I said, do you own anything? She said, yes, I have a condominium. I said, well, how much equity do you have in it? She said, roughly $80,000. I said, well, then sell that condominium, go rent somewhere, and get your job, and go be fulfilled. I said, if you really want it that bad, you will make the sacrifice.
You'll make shift happen.
But it's this, you can't make anything happen unless you are willing to make a sacrifice.
I agree.
And so many people are unwilling to make that sacrifice. They want to stay safe.
And go through the struggle of making that sacrifice.
Well, it's... If people would embrace the struggle, I mean, imagine if you woke up every day, and I tell this, I sat my kids down. I have 3 daughters. I sat them down. I said, listen to me.
Poor man.
I said, complaining is never going to make you popular. I said, so if you just accept the fact that life is beautiful, but life is not easy, and tomorrow morning and every day when you wake up, you know that there's going to be struggles, there are going to be obstacles, there are going to be bumps in the road, but you are preparing that for an adaptation response to where immediately you're going to come up with a solution and you're going to live your life taking care of struggles, not just seeking happiness, but creating happiness by alleviating those struggles rather than letting them bring you down and stopping you in your tracks. And then you start complaining, and then you start creating all these voices in your head and these stories that completely, I mean, it just shut off the noise. No, life is not easy, but you can make it beautiful. It is beautiful. You know, I have to give you this great analogy. I love the beach. I love the sun. I love everything about nature.
Absolutely.
I think Lisa knows this about me. I love nature. I could walk forever. I could walk through parks. I love the smell of fresh cut grass, everything. So when I was going through this period, this 4-year period where there was darkness, I would go in the ocean. I wouldn't even know I was in the ocean. I felt nothing. I was paralyzed. And then once I made that shift, and once I knew I was not a victim and I would not be a victim, and once I took control of my life again, I walked outside and I can actually feel the sun on my face. I would go in the ocean and I would feel like I was baptized for the first time. That's when you know you're living and not just existing.
And
And
know
so
what?
many of us do just
And
exist.
but it's a wonderful story. Apathy is probably the worst thing in the world. To feel nothing, to be numb, to walk around like a shell is worse than being angry or sad or anything.
But think of the majority of the population that are.
Well, because we're like, it's sort of like you said before, we've become very robotic, and I think we also,
Not just robotic, manipulated.
but we don't find joy in some of the smaller, some of those things that we used to be able to find joy in. So for you, like you said, going into the ocean, feeling the warmth of the sun, smelling the grass. Believe it or not, the expression "stop and smell the roses," right? That has a real value when you start talking about being able to come back to life and finding your center again. And that can get, that gets a little zen and gets a little, but also think about the small things. What we're talking about today for some people might sound very grandiose and very big. Oh my gosh, I have to sell my condo and I have to do this struggle. But the truth of the matter is small baby steps. Just the idea that you took control back by saying, I am now taking control. That's a huge step right there.
Absolutely, because you're shifting your mindset. You are absolutely shifting it. But, it's, the whole smell the roses thing and everything else, those are things that you could talk about, but people have to identify exactly what they truly want. How many people have actually sat down and said, do I love my life? Am I, let me rephrase that. Am I living my life? Just because you're alive doesn't mean you're living.
Correct.
No, that's so true.
It's as simple as that. And people are walking through this world. It's like they're creating more struggles because they are afraid to take on the struggle. They'd rather accept a struggle.
Would you ever see some of the people in the world today? I mean, you smile at them and they look at you like you have three heads. Like,
well, they're
why
afraid.
Why are you smiling at
Like
me?
a fear.
Why are you saying have a good day to me? I mean, they look at you like you're crazy. They're so miserable and pent up and twisted.
And and this isn't putting them down.
No, not at all.
Not at all. I mean, I really sympathize with these people because I was there. My goal is to just change the lives of as many people as possible, but I can only do that if they want to. I mean, there are so many people that are just so stuck in their ways, and they continue on this endless journey to nothingness.
Well, interestingly enough, when I was really actively coaching, what I found, which was very discouraging in its own way, is that people are so willing to put the time, effort, money into the outsides. They want to look good. They want to work out. They want to go to the gym. They want to fit into their clothing, but not with that same fervor did they want to spend the time working on upstairs and what's going on inside of them and changing that mindset. And it was so frustrating because it was like, do you not understand that you really can fix your life? You can change everything if you would just put the time in.
That's such a cool point that you just made, because I used to drive a Mercedes. Now I drive a Jeep.
I love Jeeps.
I used to wear a Rolex. Now I wear a Fitbit.
Yeah.
I want to minimalize my life as much as possible so I can enjoy it. I am going after freedom and happiness, not toys. Warren Buffett has the greatest quote ever. Keep buying stuff you don't need, because eventually you will have to sell the stuff you do need. And and it's true. I mean, look. I mean, there was a young guy in a gas station in my town, and he was starting a detail company. He goes, "Look at my car," and I looked at his car. It was a Ferrari.
Jeez.
A Ferrari. He's working at a gas. I said, "How much do you pay for that car a month?" It blew my mind, and I said, how do you afford that? He goes, I live with my mom.
I'm sure your dates love that.
28 years old, living with his mother, so he can drive a Ferrari.
But you have to remember something. All of this wisdom, all of this angst, everything that you're talking about has come from a lifetime of experience.
But I don't want people to make those mistakes again. That's the point. That's why I'm doing this.
But you have children. You understand, and you were a child at one point in time. And if someone had
still a child.
Always and stay that way, right?
Because again, if you always look at the world through the eyes of a child, you will always smile. Because if you look at children, no matter how difficult it is, they're always smiling. They're always curious.
Yeah. They don't see the problems.
And then when you get to be 90 years old, you really
go backwards
turn
anyway.
into a child again.
Go back to child.
Everything, it's full circle. You wind up, you start in the fetal position, you end up in the fetal position. Well, diapers, the whole thing.
Speaking of Aunt Carol, she used to say, you come into this world with no teeth and diapers, and you leave this world with no teeth and diapers.
Sadly, yes. Well, but what I want to say though is, we are fountains of wisdom. We really are. And I think there's going to be thousands of people that are going to really take what you have to say to heart. But you also have to remember that most of us, if we are who we are, if we are authentic and we are entrepreneurial and we are strong and we are fighters, we need to make those mistakes ourselves. And as much as we will try to warn people or give them some guidance, people are going to do what they need to do. And that's really the best way to figure it out, sadly.
Yeah, and you don't have to be strong. I mean, I still have moments where I break down. I mean, I still have those moments because, when you're going through a journey, but it's almost like a cleansing sometimes when you go through that, because life is not going to be perfect because you found yourself, but you are going to be able to adapt to its imperfections. That's what makes it successful. So it's really not about being strong. It's not about like I said, not everybody's going to buy into it. A lot of people are going to listen to this and say, "Oh, who are they kidding?
What do they know?"
But
what do those old people know?
But this whole thing about motivation, for instance, motivational speakers to me are worthless. They're absolutely worthless, and here's my take on it. Not that I'm putting them down. That's how they're labeled. Everybody's born with motivation. If I came after you right now, Fran, with a knife, what would you do?
I'd run like hell.
Okay, that's motivation. Now,
it's motivation enough to run, yes.
Now, when we were younger, even when we did something wrong,
we ran like hell.
No, when we did something wrong, whether it was an educator or a parent, what did they say to us? What motivated you to do that?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I still get asked that all the time.
So motivation.
I think I ask you that each week.
So motivation could be good or bad as it's seen through the perception of someone's eyes. Mm-hmm. But now, what I want to do and what I believe other people should do is inspire people to take action on their innate motivation. They were born with that motivation. Do something with it. Don't be told what to do. Find out exactly what it is you're passionate about. And if you're passionate about it, then that motivation you were born with, that's going to take you on a journey. And once you start that journey, it's addicting. I have to be honest with you. I've never been so addicted to something in my life. I mean, this journey that I'm on is unbelievable, and it gets me so excited. And that's the thing. If you could be excited about something and something to look forward to and know that you are going to make a change, it's incredible.
See, that's what BaBam Inspiration podcast is going to do for people, because when someone is excited, okay, you can just say the words, okay, you can quote famous people, you can put up all the memes you want, but when you are excited about your journey,
and you can hear his passion,
and you
can hear
that's how people attach to you. That's
trying to tone it down too.
No, we don't want you to tone it down. You shouldn't tone it down.
I get yelled at sometimes on podcasts for hitting the table.
That sends your sound engineers going. But a lot of it, but that's just the thing, the excitement, the passion about it, and that's what I mean. If you think about what evangelism is to some extent, right? Whether it's religious evangelism or just it's really just spreading a word. It's spreading what you found. It's spreading your passion and letting people know that there's something out there for you. And you find it. I think the other thing, in addition to the word motivation, I think we need to be more honest with ourselves. I had 3 steps when I would coach. The first was recognize. The second was to refocus. And the third was rewire, because we can rewire our brains. And the recognize part was really the hardest part, is to really sit. That's the point where you look in the mirror and you say, am I living my best life? Am I truly happy? Are the people that I'm surrounding myself the right people to be with? And the sad part is, the hard part is realizing that they could be your spouse. They could be your family members.
That's scary.
They could be the people you've grown up with that you don't even realize are like your antichrist to some extent. Everything you're trying to do. And under the guise of trying to protect you
Right.
and make you feel loved. We love you. We just don't want to see you get hurt. But deep down inside, like you said, their insecurities are coming to the surface, and they're projecting them onto you.
Look, I have friends, when I told them I was starting this journey, they laughed at me. They told me I'm wasting my time, all the money I invested. You're wasting your money. And I realized they just did not want to see me succeed in my journey. They did not. I had to alleviate those people. But I want to touch on something that you said because it was really cool, the whole rewiring. I mean, we are made up of neurosystems. It's energy. That's all we are. We are energy. That's why everything you think, you believe. Your mind, anything you think, anything you say out loud, your mind is going to believe it. So why do we constantly feed ourselves negative thoughts? Tom Bilyeu always talks about the glorious adaptation response. And it's true. If you rewire your brain, I mean, think about it. It's the greatest computer in the world.
Mm-hmm.
It's the greatest computer in the world. Yet, computers can beat the human mind. Why? Because we have been taught a certain way. We have to move away from what schools have taught us, from what... I mean, look, if you think about our generation, what were we taught? Go to college, get a job, get married, buy a house with a white picket fence, have 2.5 kids, put money away in your 401k. I mean, it just doesn't work. It doesn't work.
Well, it works for some.
Well, you become part of the norm. Now, the people who didn't listen to that, those are the ones, like you look at, you talk about real innovators like an Elon Musk. Okay, so let me ask you this question, Fran. If you sold your portion of PayPal and you received net into your bank account $180 million, what would you do with it?
Anything I want.
Well, there you go.
That's the mistake.
Well, there you go.
Right?
That's the mistake. So here's what this is what proves how much passion Elon Musk has. He got $180 million, put $100 million into Tesla, $60 million into SpaceX, and $20 million into Solar City, and he was borrowing money for rent from his friends.
Could you imagine? Seriously.
Think about that.
Crazy.
Well, but okay.
Now, I bring this up because 97% of all lottery winners either go bankrupt or commit suicide.
Yes, because they. Yes.
Why? Because they did not work for it. It meant nothing to them.
Well, also too, I think they spent. Well, okay, so I think when I said what I said, I want to clarify. I don't. If you were to say to me, I would build a podcast studio, we would have a business. I'm just saying. When I say anything I want, I think the difference is that you would be able to take your passions, and he obviously has passion.
Yes.
He obviously has something he has in mind. If you're finding it or you're looking for it, but the idea is that you would have freedom. I think freedom is probably one of the things
freedom
that
and happiness. Freedom and happiness. That's what you should be striving for.
That's what I think most people are looking for in their life today. The word and freedom for different people means different things.
Sure.
You know, what your job, not being the corporate grind, not going 9 to 5, doesn't mean that you don't want to do something every day. You just want to do what you love
Not
to
waiting
do.
for those 2 days to come.
Exactly. It's
Saturday,
just
Sunday.
I'm really looking forward to your journey and sharing it with you.
I appreciate that.
I think I feel like we're really in the same. We're like simpatico.
So where do you see, before we wrap things up, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Sounds like a job interview.
Well, I was asked in a job interview right out of college. I was asked in a job interview by one of the largest producers at the firm I was being interviewed at, and he said, "Where do you see yourself in 2 years?" And I said, "In your seat."
Exactly. I was interviewed at same,
and he hired me on the spot.
Absolutely.
But
I love
I have a 3-year vision, and I want to be in a stadium with 100,000 people, and I want to engage with as many as possible. I don't just want to talk. I want to engage with people and listen to what listen to their pain, talk to them if they really want to know how to make that transition, if they're really into it. Look, there are people right now who are listening to this that maybe just got home from work and, they're miserable. And I say to those people, if you are, think about your physiology. You want to talk about science and neurosystems? Just smile. And see how different you start to feel just by smiling. Because when you smile, your mind believes you're happy. Mm-hmm. So why not be happy all the time?
Believes anything you tell it. Absolutely. I'm a firm believer of that. Now, if I could just practice it more, it'd be wonderful.
Well, it gets difficult. I mean, that's the other side of it. It gets difficult on a daily basis. The world tries to beat you up, and not everybody's your friend, and not everybody wants, like you said, to see you succeed. But we certainly, the Shift Chicks, would love to see you succeed.
Yes, we want to see you succeed, and we want to come to your 100,000. Well, can we get free tickets?
We'd like upfront seats.
We want VIP.
We want VIP.
Just make sure you bring your signs.
Yeah, right. We love Mario. We love Mario.
BaBam. I'll bring you BaBam. signs.
BaBam.
So, BaBam. So before we let you go, because I know you have places to go and people to see, tell our listeners how to follow you and how to see what you're doing and follow your journey.
Well, on Instagram, BaBam_inspiration. Our website is eastmainco.com. We are a digital marketing agency because we're trying to help small businesses, realtors, insurers. We're trying to keep them ahead of the technology. That's our goal. So we're not just talking it, we're doing it. And we're making sure that we're helping as many people as possible.
This was fabulous.
Yes, this was a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
This
is
smiling.
awesome.
Thank you so much.
Smiling.
Thank you for so.
I just hate the fact that it's coming to an end.
I know. Well. What did they say? One end is something other beginning. It's the song. It's that song. Closing time. All right. So guess what? It's time for the after